Srimad Bhagavatam 6.2.13 Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahamahotsava ki jai.
So today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, chapter 2. Viṣṇudūtas are saving Ajāmila.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yamarāja Prabhu, can you please read the Sanskrit?
Adhainam mapanayata krita shesha kanishkritam yadasau bhagavan nama mriyamana samagrahit atha paetamo enam
Atha. That's why. Madhunat Apanayata try to take Krita, already done, Ashesha, unlimited, Arhaniskirtam, atonement for his sinful actions. Yet because, Asau, he, Bhagavat Nama, the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mriyamana, while dying, Samagrahit, perfectly chanted. So now the translation of the text. At the time of death, this Ajāmila helplessly and very loudly chanted the holy name of the Lord, Nārāyaṇa. That chanting alone has already freed him from the reactions of all sinful life. Therefore, O servants of Yamarāja, do not try to take him to your master for punishment in hellish conditions. So now let's read the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Well, what can I say on this text? So we can see the death moment of Ajāmila. So Prabhupada says that Ajāmila was helplessly and loudly chanting Lord Narayana's name. So he has managed to concentrate on the Lord's name. So now the purport. The Viṣṇudūtas, who are superior authorities, gave orders to the Yamadūtas, who did not know that Ajāmila was no longer subject to tribulation in hellish life for his past sins. Although he had chanted the holy name Nārāyaṇa to indicate his son, the holy name is so transcendentally powerful that he was automatically freed because he had chanted the holy name while dying, ante nārāyaṇa-smṛtiḥ. And of course he got liberated. So this, the verge of death is described here as an exam, a life exam. Here you cannot demonstrate any hypocrisy. Well, you can play some roles during your life and even get used to that role, to that mask that you wear. You know what people say, I don't have any bad habits, because he identifies himself with his external behavior and he sees no reasons to be criticized, because these people, they look good, they wear good clothing, they behave well, even at work, so they try to sort of like put up a show. But in reality, they do have some bad habits, or when there are no witnesses, there's still an internal nature that is hidden by this person, that he hides it, even from himself. So it is all possible to play a role during your life. For your whole life, it's like a duality. But at the age of death, it is impossible to put on a mask or to play a role of a sage. All the facts, the life facts, they come on surface, even those that are very well hidden, even those that we had managed to hide. But at the moment of death, all of these things, they will come to the surface. Nothing is forgotten. The laws of the universe are very strict, very accurate. So then it is said that you will face a judgment, a fair judgment, and some definite personalities are in charge of this judgment. So the Supreme Judge here is actually being chosen by the Supreme Lord. So Yamarāja plays this role. So when a person judges, he may commit a mistake, so that's why our law helps us. So there's a lawyer, advocate, a judge, just like we do in our life. And there's a condition. So the judge must be unbiased. He should not be related to the criminal. He should be totally unbiased. If the judge shows any symptoms of being biased, he should be replaced. So in this case, the judge actually takes up a role of God, totally unbiased. Or also it's called the representative of dharma. So the main thing in all this judging process, everything should be unbiased. if anyone is corrupt there, he should be replaced. So now we can see how much dharma, religion, has degraded by seeing, by looking at all these processes happening in our world these days, in the court. We see how far they are from the sacred rules. We can understand how far our civilization is. So the same thing in the universe, there has to be a representative of God to be in charge of all these processes, to be the judge for the unlimited number of living beings. So Yamarāja is also in charge of some processes independently. Some things happen automatically according to some instances, authorities. So sometimes people cannot even see any process happening after they die. So it's not an obligation that you go to Yamarāja, you sit on the court bench. Some, special sinners, they go to Yamarāja, of course, to face the court. Sometimes these processes happen automatically. Well, for example, when a person is already in the prison, he could be moved from one cell to another. He's in the prison anyways. But in this case, you see, there are the servants of Yamarāja, Yamadūtas, came to Ajāmila. It's an extraordinary situation. And the thing that they didn't like in Ajāmila is that he was Brahman who betrayed his religion. He was a great sinner. He was given a very good birth, beneficial birth. He was given all the good qualities from the birth, a lot of advantages, like intelligence, the rest of the things, his parents. So his future was supposed to be very definite, of a saint person. This was given to Ajāmila from the very birth. But sometimes, you see, a person might be born with really negative qualities, weak intelligence, he's not interested in studying, he suffers all his life. He commits sins without even understanding what he's doing. You see, he's already judged by the very fact of his birth. But Ajāmila, he was actually born free of all these bad habits. So Bhagavad-gītā says that it's a very rare thing to be born in a Brahman's family. But Ajāmila, he has lost this chance. He has fallen, he has degraded. And in addition, he has used his intelligence, given for the sacred activity, he has used it for the sinful activities. See, very subtle intelligence. He has become a great sinner. He was supposed to become Brahman, but he has become a sinner. So that's why Yamarāja has sent his servants to catch Ajāmila. But you see, Ajāmila, it wasn't so simple. He had some kind of a blessing upon him. So he has given a name of Lord to his last son. Because one of the sages asked Ajāmila to give this name to his last son, to Ajāmila's last son. So in this case, Ajāmila was trying, the sage, was trying to help Ajāmila, saying that give this Lord's name to your last son, So Ajāmila was chanting his son's name, Nārāyaṇa, but anyways, it was the Lord's name. So the appearance, the Yamadūtas' appearance is also described here. So this is really horrible. So you cannot get rid of all these horrible creatures because they come down in subtle bodies. You cannot get away. It's just impossible. You can't even turn your eyes away. They just kind of spine chilling. They're so wicked. They look wicked. And of course, instinctively, you're trying to escape these Yamadūtas. And Ajāmila, the only way out for him was to chant his last and favorite son. You see, he had committed so many great mistakes, and he has developed an attachment to his last son. So desperately, literally desperately, unconsciously. So tell me, how can a 2-year-old kid help you not to die? It's just Ajāmila, he didn't know whom to call. So he started screaming Nārāyaṇa. He called his son. It's just there was nothing else for him to do. He didn't even know what to do just because of his attachment. So then Yamadūtas came down and they've already caught him on the ropes. So they've already started dragging the soul out of his body, this painful process. So Ajāmila, being totally unconscious, he started screaming. It was very painful. So he has screamed out Nārāyaṇa. But remember, he used to be Brahman in the first part of his life, and he has realized that this is the Lord's name. So you see what's happening? So we chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Probably even when chanting we mean something else. Some people think about chakras, some people think about some prayers. Some people chant to develop some siddhas probably, to feel some pranas, some yogic powers. No one chants clearly. No one calls up to the personality of Godhead in the beginning, even though you hear about it. But in the process of namabhas, this memory comes up. The memory of the Lord comes up on the surface. So Ajāmila, he has screamed it 1 or 2 times, but it was so powerful. And in the process of screaming, he has recalled the presence of God in his life. It was a split of a second. He has called up his son, of course, but not God, but the sound. It has played its role. And the same instant, Viṣṇudūtas appeared. It has happened instantly. So Ajāmila saw this very powerful illumination, lighting, very powerful personalities. There were 3 of them, just like the number of Yamadūtas. They were 4-handed. They were very deep voices, just like those of Nārāyaṇas. They were very peaceful, quiet, and powerful. So they said to Yamadūtas, "Stop whatever it is you're doing." So Yamadūtas couldn't continue because of the Viṣṇudūtas. They started having this discussion. So you see, Yamarāja cannot be wrong. He has sent his servants to catch the sinner, but Viṣṇudūtas said that there's a dharma that is above it. something that you do not know about.
Ajāmila сейчас абсолютно безгрешен.
And Ajāmila now is totally sinless.
В Бхагавад-гите Кришна говорит 7.28.
So in Bhagavad-gītā 7.28, Kṛṣṇa says,
Jananam punya karmanam kedvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drika vrata. Кто совершал благочестивый поступок,
persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life,
отрекся от греха,
whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of delusion,
в меня
engage themselves in my service with determination.
и предпосылки для предания.
So that's what Kṛṣṇa says. What are the symptoms of being devoted to Kṛṣṇa? You have to
Может появиться
get rid of sins. You have to have this determination.
решимость, будет
The presence of karma
когда
and determination,
Господи,
they're going to be mixed.
когда мне хорошо, я забываю.
So when I feel bad, I said, God, I want to come to you. When I feel okay,
Датчик
I don't say
освобождается,
anything.
там
I don't think
больше
about God.
что между хорошим
So when a person gets rid of karma, he understands that there's no difference between bad and good karma. So that's why even in bad times and good times, a true devotee gives himself fully to Kṛṣṇa with great determination. Unless one is freed from all sinful reactions, one cannot be promoted to the platform of devotional service. So you see, pious activities, they help us. This pious activity provides us with some kind of growth. For example, we do something on a good level. So what's going to happen next after that? So Kṛṣṇa gives us intelligence. Anything we do, mundane life, doesn't matter. Well, for example, you can declamate philosophy. Well, so what are you going to do next? You see that someone does it even better. In this case, the one doing it better will see that, oh, there's someone else that does it even better. So that's how you grow. It's like a competition. But if we commit a sin, what happens to our mind? We notice that it's not only me who commits the sins, there are someone else. There's someone else, and then you can see that other people, they commit sins as well, so what's the problem? See, these directions are so different. So we are talking here about pious activities. It takes you up, where you have this determination to devote to Kṛṣṇa. So Paramahamsa, it takes you along the way to associate with sages. By associating with sages, you have this determination. This determination emerges, appears in this life. Elsewhere in Bhagavad-gītā 8.5, it is stated, if one remembers Kṛṣṇa, Nārāyaṇa, at the time of death, one is certainly eligible to return immediately home, back to Godhead. It is described in Bhagavad-gītā as a law. So Bhagavad-gītā is just a list of laws, both spiritual and material. Everything is listed here. Absolutely everything, all the aspects Kṛṣṇa has described in 1.5 hours. All the aspects of our mundane life, all the things. Every person can use Bhagavad-gītā as a law and achieve perfection. So here it says, if one remembers Kṛṣṇa Nārāyaṇa at the time of death, will definitely go back to Godhead. There's nothing else need it.
по-разному к Богу. Например, мы
So we have to also understand what it's like to return to God. So for example, we are lost in the forest and
дерево или холм.
being on a tree, for example, you can see a way out of a forest.
Считайте, что
If we see our purpose from the top,
это считается, что
you can consider you can return back home,
чистый преданный это
back to
тот, кто
Godhead.
вернулся к Богу.
So pure devotee, the one,
Но чистый
is the one who has returned to God.
чистый преданный.
But there are
Конечно,
three
это
categories of
и утоматик.
pure devotee.
Это каждый из них считается по факту уже вернулся
So each of these categories
к служению имеется.
is considered that you have returned to Godhead, to devotional service.
Критерий. Если есть преданное служение, значит человек живет
The
с Богом.
criterion is that you have
Нет
to
преданного служения,
perform
еще не
devotional
живет с
service.
Богом. Он может быть еще на пути к этому.
If there's no devotional service, you do not live with God yet. You're just
Может быть, он даже верит в Бога,
in the process
но
of
живет с Богом.
returning to God.
Жить с Богом означает
You might know about God, but you do not live with God. Living with God means using all your senses when associating with God. For example, when you eat prasadam, you communicate with God. Communicating with God means listening to His words directly, from Bhagavad-gītā, for example, chanting His holy name, talking about His qualities, about His pastimes. All this is in association with God. So these people, they are considered to be family. They're considered to be living with God. Kṛṣṇa, Madhyama, and Uttama, Adhikari.
нужно рассматривать всегда вместе.
They can be considered
Кṛṣṇа, если он
to be together. So Kṛṣṇa, if he's sincere,
он уже связан с
if he's Adhikara, if he's connected to the deities and Guru,
наставниками, смотрите, их нужно вместе рассматривать.
he's connected with the spiritual
Madhyama тоже связан.
masters.
Кто выше и с тем, кто ниже, он проповедует.
So Madhyama is connected with both of these categories, and Uttama is also connected because he's really merciful
Поэтому их рассматривают
and
как
compassionate.
единое, как бы, семью Бога,
So
одного друга.
all these categories are considered to be just like one family of God. You have to be very attentive here,
Дискриминировать,
not to commit a sin, to discriminate,
не дискриминировать.
to serve but not to discriminate.
Кṛṣṇа оскорбит Уттама,
If Kṛṣṇa offends Uttama,
Уттама,
he will go down to hell.
он тоже упадет.
If Uttama offends
Не дискриминируйте.
Kṛṣṇa, he will fall down as well. Do not discriminate, do not offend, do not criticize the devotees.
Иногда какие-то ошибки, иногда
So sometimes we can commit some mistakes, sometimes devotees can fall down into some sinful activities,
Кṛṣṇа не покинет.
but if they offend
Даже когда они упадут в грех,
devotees,
Кṛṣṇа к ним.
even when they fall down, Krishna will not abandon them.
Это очень важный момент. То есть связь с Богом, она
So it's very,
даже когда человек падает в греховную деятельность,
it's a very important detail.
она разрывается только тогда, когда человек оскорбляет Viṣṇudūtas, слушает.
Krishna is always there for you.
Поэтому если, конечно,
But when you
под руководством
offend
соблюдать правила
devotees, that's a great sin.
этикету,
So if you follow this Vaishnava's etiquette
чистого преданного,
and do the rest of the things, you may be considered to be a pure devotee. Just like Prabhupada said, when you associate with a scientist, you become a scientist.
будете признаваться тоже ученым.
When you associate with these scientists, you will be considered as a scientist as well. If you associate with devotees, you are considered to be a devotee.
Прабхупаде мы признаем,
So
что
if we serve to Srila Prabhupada,
служим Кришне.
we are committed to be his direct servants.
Итак, здесь опять вот описывается величие святого имени, то есть смысл
So here,
повествования,
the glory and the greatness of a holy name is described, the power.
как говорил Харидас Такур,
Just like Haridas Thakur says, but
грехов освобождает.
Namapas liberates you from all the sins.
Вся его история.
So here we have this example of Ajāmila.
Чтобы мы могли это почувствовать, пережить, нужна история. Есть утверждение шастр, но нужна еще
So there are some,
пример.
there are shastras, and there's also an example. We have a great example here. So in Kali Yuga, people, they feel philosophy with help of some stories. Just like Mahabharata, you see, allegories as well.
Много аллегорий тут.
through a lot of allegories described here as well, that are connected with Kṛṣṇa, with His holy name, with devotees. That's how you can feel everything that is written in Upanishads, in Vedanta Sutras. These are the purports, the commentaries. They give you a chance to feel this truth directly, using your senses, especially when we read Acharya's commentaries. We feel it even better. So Prabhupada gives us Kṛṣṇa, gives us this holy name, and we can feel Kṛṣṇa dancing during kirtans together with us. Although we do not see him physically, but we see him in the deities. We differentiate spirit from matter. We don't see that stone is a metal or something. We see Kṛṣṇa everywhere. Senses should be busy with the devotional service. This is considered to be Kṛṣṇa's consciousness. So this story gives us a feeling of the Ajāmila's life. And then we get purified. This potent belief in Kṛṣṇa wakes up. Sing and dance at the same time. This is all the Lord's family. We'll have this holy name. So you see, I can see it in your faces that you're totally sinless right now. All of you are sinless. There are no Yamadūtas here, Viṣṇudūtas. They have told them to go away. And of course today is Janmashtami, it's a great day, so of course we worry today. And of course Kṛṣṇa will answer to all of us today, even for those who will just come to look, to observe this holiday, to look at what's happening. So we've discussed this topic today when Ajāmila was saved by Viṣṇudūtas with two quotes from Bhagavad-gītā and purports. So questions, please. So thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. So we'll make a short announcement now, and then we'll go to questions. So probably all these questions will be connected with today's holiday, Janmashtami. So Pramananda Prabhu. So dear devotees watching us on YouTube, send us your questions to the support service, or the links in the description are under this video. And those who are in Zoom, just raise your hand and turn your mic on to speak. So Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu, you've said that between the sinful activities and pious activities, there is no difference. Activities, they hold us down in this material world. Well, of course, there might be a slight difference because sinful activities, they doom you to suffer. Pious activities, they give us a more convenient position in this life. So, but we still have these four problems: birth, suffering, like diseases and death, birth, growing, disease and death. And Ajāmila here, after he has fallen, but before this he hadn't committed any sins. But today you've also said that something about offenses, Vaishnavas aparatas. You are not supposed to discriminate So, could you comment on this word, the discrimination? There's like a healthy discrimination. Rupa Goswami says about that. In order to get the maximal amount of blessing or bliss, you have to have this ability to differentiate adhikara. You have to be able to differentiate. So could you comment on the meaning of this word discrimination? Yeah, thank you, Kṛṣṇa prabhu. Very good question. So, differentiation is necessary. There are two goals, material and spiritual. So the material purpose is discrimination, to lord it over. The one who is lower or higher, so that they try to lord it over each other. That's why they try to differentiate each other by their education, position in the society, to point the place to each person in the society. But the spiritual differentiation is used for the serving. So there's like a neophyte. He should not be exploited. That's a discrimination. We should help him. We should lift him up to the spiritual platform. That's how devotees should create a family. So it's interesting what concerns Ajāmila about this pious activity to avoid sins. So a sinful person should differentiate between sinful activities and pious activities. Otherwise, he will not have a chance to elevate. And if a person has purified himself of sins already, he still considers himself to be a sinful person because he is still in this material world under the influence of all these three modes of nature between sins, and he considers himself to be a sinful person. You see, sinners, they have these material desires and they act accordingly. But if I have these material desires, I just try to kind of suppress them. So it's like a hypocrisy on my behalf. So when a sage thinks of himself in the way that even being a pious person, he thinks to be a sinful person, so that's how he can elevate. And also, there are two categories of people, just like you said. People that think of themselves that Parahamsas, that know that they are Parahamsas, that have realized this stage, and Mudhas, fools. Yeah, that's a good example. So you said, remember you gave us this anecdote the other day. So you have to be handsome, healthy, and an idiot. So that's how you can be happy. I think many people choose this way these days, and all the rest of the people, the normal people, they will be experiencing this way or another what you've just said about. It's like I'm suppressing myself, but I still have this desire inside of me. So this is kind of a sort of a suffering as well. So we have a raised hand. So Mataji Karlagash, you go first. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Thank you so much for such an amazing lecture. I've seen a whole scheme, layout for myself. So if I can, if we could take a look at all the stages again. So pious activity. When we do pious activity, Kṛṣṇa gives us intelligence, and with help of intelligence we can see the advantages of others. We can associate with people that are better than us, higher than us. We have determination to go further, and then the devotional service is the last stage. I think you've heard it even better than I said it. You've classified it. So you've put some clarity into that. But this is a simplified scheme, of course. So this process sometimes could be interrupted. For example, your pride. If a sage has some pride, but the point is that you have to go up to the level of associating with sages, sadhusanga. You see, just like Ajāmila, he was a sage, he was a pious person, but see, he was interrupted, he's fallen down. Sometimes it happens, but if a person goes along this path stable, like in a stable manner, everything's going to be okay. So what helps us to hold on to this pious path? You see, even though Ajāmila has fallen, associating with sages in his early life, it has saved him. So this fact, thank you so much. And there's a, can I ask another question? Concerning Ajāmila, once we've heard that he was actually calling up for his son, and this has allowed him to be saved. But then some people say that he was actually recalled Nārāyaṇa. So the question is, has he really recalled Nārāyaṇa at the time of death? It was just his son. So he's forgotten his son and he's recalled Nārāyaṇa? So you've probably overheard it. So probably you were thinking about pious activities more. So this was a mercy of Namabhas. So Ajāmila was calling up to his son, not to God initially. But when he said, when he pronounced Nārāyaṇa, this was Namabhas. And Namabhas has given him this mercy. It's just, I don't know what Namabhas is. Karabhajana, can you please explain what Namabhas is? So I'm not on this level yet, but Karabhajana, he can explain it. So Namabhas, in this case, Ajāmila, he didn't know that he was chanting the Lord's name. He was just calling his son. But it turned out that his son's name was Nārāyaṇa, a very powerful name of God. And the person, just like Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, in his previous two verses. So Ajāmila, he hasn't committed offenses because he was chanting Nārāyaṇa's name unconsciously. He didn't want Nārāyaṇa to save him or liberate him from these Yamadūtas that are the consequence of his sins. He was just calling his name, but it was the holy name of God.